Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and my new segment where I interview and chat with other pet professionals about all sorts of dog topics: dog training, dog care, dog rescue, dog health, dog nutrition, dog rescue, dog whatever. To fall in line with my channel and the content that I upload from time to time, I started this new segment to try and offer some insight and education and add some value, again, a wide variety of dog care topics. And today we have a pretty cool segment, and we're going to be talking about the animal rescue and foster relationship. And what I mean by that is the relationship between an animal rescue organization and the parents that foster for their beloved companions, whether they're four-legged or feathered or whatever. And today we have two great guests. We have Franny Laurita, who is the founder of Halfway Home Animal Rescue Team. And Franny's been involved in rescue for a long time. And we also have Danielle Cascone, who is like foster mom extraordinaire, and she's been in the rescue industry for what, almost a decade now, right?
Yeah, about 9 years.
Okay, yeah. So it's going to be a great segment. I hope you guys enjoy. I know you'll enjoy it. I'm not even worried. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Franny, we'll start with you. Just give us a quick spiel of how the hell you got sucked into this disease called rescue.
Well, it actually happened years and years ago. I had a dog, and he was my life. I loved him. And he had heart disease, unfortunately. So I just had come from the vet, and he was not doing well. And he was a boxer. And there was another boxer there who was a senior like mine. And unfortunately, her family had just dumped her there. They decided they no longer wanted her. I did not know rescue existed, but they asked me to take this dog. Because of the condition of my dog, I wasn't able to take in another dog because he wasn't crazy about other dogs, and here he was basically dying. So I figured out a way to help this dog, got her to Maine, hooked up with a rescue group, and it just sort of snowballed from there. I always saw like different things I can do, things I could do more. Here I am almost 20 years later, over 20 years later, because I'm older than her. And
You had to point that out.
now I think I find myself in the position where I had to have my own rescue because I've seen a lot. I've been through a lot, you know, no disrespect to anyone else, but I think I knew how I wanted it done. And I think I had to sort of go out on my own and try the things that I felt like were missing, could be changed, could be done better. I have a lot to learn still. Everybody does. But I want to continue learning, and I want to pretty much choose the people who I can do that with, because I feel like there are a lot of good people out there. And, you know, when you have your own rescue organization, you can choose who you want to work with, how and why and when. And it was time to do that. So.
Cool. And Danielle, I know you've fostered for like a gazillion different organizations over the years, but give us a brief rundown.
Well, I started because I was very late to Facebook. I was like super resistant. And as soon as I got on, I found out that most of my friends were at very least advocating for a lot of like local dogs that were at risk of euthanasia. And I felt like every time I logged on, it was like at risk of euthanasia, like at risk list. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so I finally saw this one dog. Her name was Misty. She didn't make it, unfortunately, but what got me to actually apply to be a foster was this one dog. And after I sent in my application, the rescue reached out to me and said, hey, unfortunately, she didn't make it, but will you take another dog in her honor? And, you know, I said, sure, why not? You know, pick whoever you want, I guess. I didn't really know anything about fostering. I had my own dog, one, and I said, you know, he's not the nicest dog, but he can coexist with another dog. Sure, we'll take another dog. And turned out that he wasn't the best match. He did have some issues that as a brand new, wet behind the ears foster, that I probably should not have taken him, but I didn't know about those issues until after he had come. So we didn't have him for very long. I'm going to say we had him for about 2 months. And we were all super heartbroken. Oh my God, like how could we ever do that? And then that same rescue reached out to me, I think a few weeks after he left, and said, listen, we have this mom dog. She's pregnant. No one has room for her because she's about to give birth any day. would you consider another dog in this situation? And I had my own house, so it's not like I needed anybody's permission to do it. I just needed the permission of my family. So I think it was Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken. And I said, okay, sure, we'll take her. We'll give it a try. I talked to my family, and we were like, we'll give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? And so we did get her December 10th of 2011 or 12, and got her at the nighttime. And by 7 o'clock the next morning, I went to go check on her, and I was like, oh God, I think she's pooping on the floor. And she was birthing the first baby. Aww. So we had her maybe 12 hours, and she had gone into labor. So all these years later, we still have her. We kept her, her, Betty, and all her babies got adopted. And I think from there, the challenges of fostering babies and puppies and litters versus other kinds of, aged dogs and stuff like that wound up being our journey. But that was a great experience for us. It was a huge learning experience for us. Again, I'm not sure that we were the right people for the job, but nobody else was willing to take her. So I kind of Googled how to birth babies, how to help the mom, figured it out, and here we are. So, and then from there, it just kind of got easier and easier. We did have them for, I think the last one didn't get adopted until like 6 months later. So after the last one got adopted is when we again started taking more active fosters. So
cool. Excellent. Well, thank you both. I appreciate it. And for anyone watching, the reason why I really wanted to do this segment is, first and foremost, I have the utmost respect for both of these ladies. They are friggin' wonderful. Okay. Number two is that the rescue community in general, especially with social media and all the bullshit that goes on online, a lot of times conflict arises between people where it doesn't need to be. And I think sometimes if we establish or set some expectations, from a rescue standpoint and a foster standpoint, and how those two can work together, for the purpose and, the sole purpose of finding that animal a forever home, that's really why I want to do this, because it's like any other industry. It's like coworkers. You're going to have some conflict sometimes, and sometimes you have to work through it. And unfortunately, in the digital climate we're in nowadays, shit just gets blown out of proportion. Or I think everyone knows what's going on in social media nowadays, because it's not isolated to rescue. It's every friggin' industry, whether it's politics or whatever else. So that's why I really wanted to do this particular segment, because, we have two people, from both sides and obviously I have my own experience as both a foster and then founding my own rescue.
Same.
So I think collectively, we can offer whoever's watching, a pretty fair and hopefully unbiased point of view on how to make the foster rescue relationship the best it can be for the sake of the animals. So that being said, Franny, from your standpoint, having your own rescue now, what's your view? What do you see a foster's role being?
First, I have to say, we are constantly amazed by what people will do for an animal. You see a lot of the bad in the world, but from this end, I've always been a foster. I've always been a foster of many chickens, rabbits, horses, anything. But when it's your rescue and you see people, bring these animals into their homes and their families, and they do it out of the goodness of their heart, you're blown away every single time. So in our rescue, I always want to make it very known how much we appreciate our fosters and how completely valuable they are. I have a lot of dogs. It's no secret. I have a lot of dogs. So I have taken two recently that don't allow me to take certain types of dogs anymore. I can't take large dogs anymore. I can't take, loud dogs anymore. They'll set off my little pack. So I am 100% dependent on fosters. So with me, it's trust. I won't take, you know, I see a lot of groups, and again, everybody does things their own way, but I see a lot of groups putting pictures of dogs out there. They'll take animals that they don't have places for. I absolutely will not ever do that. I will not ever take dogs and stack them into boarding. I won't hand them off to strangers. I meet every dog. I mean, some of Danielle's I had it at a little bit because I trust her so much and I know her so well. But there will never be a day when I am not dropping off the dog at the foster myself, meeting them, establishing a relationship. At this point, there are people we know or friends of friends. You know, it's a big trust is a very big deal. So it does make me really nervous when I see groups taking in lots and lots and lots of animals. And, you know, there's a comment on a thread, I'll take the dog. Yes, I'll meet you later. You know, that's never going to happen. You have to know these people. I have to feel comfortable enough that I would put one of my own dogs in this home, because that's, for all intents and purposes, what I'm doing. I love every single one of these dogs and cats and whoever they are. And the people that have them are invaluable. So we try to be really, I wouldn't want to use the word choosy, but I like to get to know them and build some kind of trust before I hand off an animal. I think it's the way it should be.
What are some of the things you provide to a foster to support them supporting you?
Everything. Well, there are some fosters like Danielle and John who are extremely generous and refuse to take things from me.
They won't take a damn dime.
They don't, and they're great. I mean, she'll send me a picture of John wearing it like a snuggly to the dog, and she'll say, we went on a shopping spree today. We bought him toys, and let me send you this. No, I won't. And that's wonderful. That's a huge help too. And that just again shows, I mean, the quality of these people and their hearts and what they're willing to do for the animals. And I think that really gets them ready for adoption, because if I do, honestly, I have run into, since having my own rescue, and I was foster coordinator for a couple of other rescues, I have run into the people where it's like, I got my sneakers dirty taking care of whoever, and I had to get a new pair of shoes. Here's the bill. But now I find myself with people who are really generous. But on the other hand, we try to be really generous as well. All vet bills are always paid. We do send food, beds, toys, whatever they need. Anything that the foster wants to do on top of that is totally their choice, but it's 100% available to them to not have to pay for anything. We're still blown away that people will take them. So we want to make that as easy as possible. And we really, our rescue is really like a family. I don't see myself as like, I'm not the only founder. There are 3 of us. And I see them all as equals to us in the way that we're all helping these animals. It's not like, look at me, here's a selfie with me with every dog that my rescue took. Nope, I couldn't have Stanley and Pete if it wasn't for Danielle and John. So I want them to, I want them to get, you know what I mean? I want them to get the recognition and the, everything that comes along with taking a dog. Because when you get down to it, they're the ones who have to watch their heart walk out the door. I love all these dogs, but I'm not with a lot of them every day. And it's their every day. It's their love. It's their house. It's their heartbreak. We also really, really involve our fosters in the adoption process as well. So I think that's something different that makes people want to foster again, because they do feel very much a part of things. That's important.
And when you enroll a new foster, do you have like a foster contract that
we do?
Okay.
We do. We have an application,
okay.
And I go over that, and then we have a contract which says, you can't, go and introduce this dog at Petco to another dog in 5 minutes when you get them. You can't, take this dog anywhere dangerous. You can't alter them. You can't bring them to a dog park and set them free with other dogs. You can't, you have to check in. But Danielle will tell you that when there are people interested in her fosters, I speak to them first. I do their references. We do all of that. And oddly enough, we have that done. I have someone who helps me. She's another foster for our dogs. So she helps me do the reference checking and everything, because she knows what it's like to take a dog that you love so much and hand it off to somebody else. We don't take that lightly. We're not into numbers. We don't care how many dogs and cats we adopt out a year. We want to do quality adoptions, and we want everyone to be happy, from us to the foster, to the adopter, to the entire family, to everyone involved, because we want you to come back and do it again. So we want fosters to come again. So we'll give them as much as we can. We do interview them. I do meet them. We do go to their homes. But we do also give them, we include them in a lot. They get to be a big part of choosing the forever home.
Cool.
Yeah. And honestly, they're allowed to say no, because ultimately it's, we want this dog to be in the perfect home. You know this dog better than I do. We've had times when, they pass the home visit, they pass the vet references, their personal references are passed, but there's just something not right. Like recently, it was a different foster, wonderful person who I know and fostered with me from a few different organizations, followed us. And the potential adopter was a wonderful person, but this dog specifically likes to sleep in bed. And they said the dog has to sleep downstairs in a cage. And she said no. And I said, if you're not comfortable, that we'll find her a dog who doesn't need to sleep in the bed. That's it. We're not in this for the numbers. We're in it to get the best possible life for those individuals.
I love that.
So that's really what I see, is somebody who wants to work with us.
Cool. And now, Danielle, from a foster mom standpoint,
that's everything a foster wants to hear.
Yeah, right. So, well,
right.
And what, obviously all that's the logistic part of it, which is great, and feel free to add on to that. But like, what's your mindset going into being a foster parent?
Well, I guess the concern is always not for my dogs, because my dogs have been here for so long. So I know that they've accepted literally over 100 different puppies and dogs. But my concern is always their safety, the safety of my dogs in the home. But also, like, are we going to be up all night because this dog is, transitioning and trying to settle down and confused and scared? And like, what are some of the behaviors we're going to have to deal with and work through that maybe somebody else didn't see? Or maybe they were in the shelter for so long, or in another home with another owner for so long, and we're disrupting their schedule. So maybe we'll see behaviors that they didn't already have because it's a new place. Everything is new to them. So, I mean, it's always like, hopefully this will work. And like how much work it'll take to kind of get them to adjust to being with us for however long they're with us. But I mean, I get and we foster dogs. I mean, I have taken in cats on emergency, but primarily we're dog fosters. So again, it's always just like, who is this dog? What can we do for them? And just hoping for the best. Because there's only so much you can prepare for. I think with some dogs, you have nothing to go on, so you can't prepare. And for others, you do your best and, just kind of wish it to happen and go well.
And when you take in a new dog, do you have any, like, I'm sure every foster or rescue does things differently. Do you kind of have like a baseline way you bring a dog into your home? Like, do you, keep it in another room or have it crated for the first few days, let it settle in?
We will if depending on the situation they're coming from. So if I don't know, if they're sick or if they came from a shelter, we will generally try to keep them separated so that even if they don't have anything or any illnesses that seem obvious, we know that a lot of times they can start the coughing and the sneezing after they've been home for like a week. So we don't want to take that chance. But in other situations where they're coming from a shelter where they're super friendly with other dogs and they're up to date on all their immunizations and they're completely healthy, we will introduce them, but very guarded. So it all depends on the kind of dog too. I mean, Pete came from, can we say where he came from, right? So Pete came from, Stanley came from the East Orange shelter, where he was like the office dog, just kind of chilling, and he was there for a while. And so we actually went to go meet another little pocket pitty, and we took Betty there to go for on a walk, do proper intros. And while they did get along, we just kind of saw some cues. That dog gave us some cues that I was like, I'm not sure. It may take a little bit longer for everybody to sort of figure things out. And while we were there, she's like, hey, by the way, there's another little stinking Chihuahua that we may be taking. Meet him, let me know what you think. And I was like, okay. And sure enough, I see this little Chihuahua, and I was like, oh, he's the cutest little thing, because I have big dogs. And he was like obsessed with ball playing and just hanging around the office, and everybody's picking him up like he's like this little toy. And I was like, he's just so cute. And I said, unfortunately, we had determined that I didn't think it would be a good match with the other dog. And I wound up going back the next day and taking Stanley home. But again, I already knew that he was totally fine with big dogs, little dogs, because I was there to see it. So we kind of introduced him right away, just because we were able to see him in that type of environment. But we won't do it with every dog. We have had dogs that we were told right off the bat, we don't think this dog is dog friendly, or what we know so far is that this dog is not dog friendly. And we've always had a situation where we had a finished basement, so we can keep that dog downstairs, safely separated from the other dogs, where they're still comfortable. There's heat, they have a couch, and there's a crate if they're crated. But otherwise, we will keep them separated if it's the safest thing to do.
Cool.
Just dog by dog, I think.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's situational, and there's so many variables that go into any dog going into any new environment. So, and obviously you both have foster experience. Franny, what are some of the pitfalls or conflicts that arise between a rescue and a foster?
I've run into
and whether it's your own experience as a foster or your experience now as a rescue.
Okay. I won't be specific because I don't want,
that's fine.
Maybe it was my rescue, maybe it wasn't. But I've run into some, over the years, I've learned a lot about it. I'm into the same things you are, nutrition and, health for dogs and well-being. I've learned a lot of stuff. A lot of times, and I am always willing to learn from other people, and fosters have taught me many things. I have to say that. But I have to say, it's sort of frustrating when you know that a dog will do well on a certain food. You've had that dog on that food, and then let's say the foster decides they're changing it because their dogs eat something else, and now the dog has like a myriad of skin infections and a whole bunch of things that need to be addressed. Sometimes so I try to be, now that I have my own rescue, I try to just say, this is the food we're giving you, or what does your dog eat? I can give you that and see if it's a match. You try to head it off at the pass so that doesn't happen. And then I've sort of run into, over the years, honestly, some people don't listen. And I think they mean it out of the goodness of their heart. But I've seen, like, within 15 minutes of picking up a pit bull, we're in public and we're meeting other dogs, or you have a little tiny dog and all of a sudden the little tiny dog is off leash somewhere, or, the foster is off leash, or there's a little baby sitting on top of the dog, things like that you're like, and then at the same time you have to be like, okay, this person's doing a really good thing for me. Don't freak out. But at the same time, you have to worry, you're liable for all that. You're responsible for that dog. If that dog does something bad, that a human would consider bad, 9 out of 10 times it's because that dog should have not been put in a certain situation. So it really is a challenge at times to keep in mind you're respecting these people who are doing this good thing for you, and you genuinely appreciate them. But sometimes you see a disaster about to happen and you have to say something. And so I have to fight myself, because sometimes I think, be nice, be nice, be nice. But you can tell somebody something bad could happen while being nice. But some people think you're the bad guy when you say that, I can 100% promise you that I am always nice. But if I've told you time and time again, don't let the baby sit on the dog, don't let the baby sit on the dog, don't let the baby sit on the dog, and then I take the dog away from you, give the dog to someone else, your feelings are hurt, I'm the bad guy. I'm trying to save your baby's face. I'm trying to save that dog from a future being labeled as a biter. So it really is sometimes a balance of what can I look the other way on, or what is absolutely unacceptable, all while respecting that someone's doing a nice thing for an animal. So that's kind of hard, but it gets easier because the animals are number one to me. And the people that are helping the animals are extremely important. Anybody who works with me will tell you that too. But ultimately, that person's going to go on with their life. If their feelings get hurt, they're going to get over it. if something bad happens to an animal, that's on me. So I have to be really responsible where that is. And I hope people just understand that. That I think is the biggest challenge, you know, keeping things in check while being completely appreciative of the people who are doing something for you.
Right. And I mean, you brought up liability, obviously, as when you have a rescue and the whole liability aspect, because you have your rescue insurance, and then
Yes.
you have to have, well, you don't have to have, but you should have insurance for your board members, which are two different policies. And I think a lot of times the disconnect from the business side of rescue and the animal side of rescue, I think sometimes that can kind of get a little wishy-washy, where,
It can.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know what we did about that? I won't say much, but I've seen a lot in rescue. His face. I've seen.
What?
He's shaking his eyes, yes, in affirmation.
Yes.
Anyway, I've seen a lot. And I want this rescue to have longevity. I want us to be around. I want us to make a huge difference. We have done so in the short time we've been together. So what I did was I took two people who I've known for, you know, one of them longer than the other, but I have to say they're just, I can't even get into talking about them because they're so wonderful. And I can't even describe what wonderful people these are. And we have so many wonderful people in our lives and in our rescue, but these two that we're the founders, we will be the board until the end of time. I treasure this person next to me. She's just as much a part of this rescue as I am. So is her husband, but the board is in stone. It's not changing, because to us, the board is, it's a technical thing. We have to have a board. It has to have a certain amount of people on it. It is staying exactly as it is. And I don't want anyone who's never invited to be on the board to take it personally. It's like the book is closed. That's it. Because I know there will be no drama. There'll be no, you know, for instance, we have a 100% cruelty-free policy in our rescue. That means all animals matter to us. That means you will never be in an event for our rescue where an animal is served or exploited or eaten or anything like that. If I get two members on the board who are wonderful about everything else, but vote us off of that, there's a very important building block of what our rescue was and what it means to us, and now it's gone. So I didn't necessarily load the board with people who always agree, but with people who have the same mindset about helping animals, and we're good friends and they mean the world to me. I get emotional. I can't even describe it, but the board stays just like that. So that as far as the business end of it goes, we got that covered. The rest is just pure rescue. There will never, ever be drama in this rescue. And that's by design. And we have so many people who are important to us. And I hope that they know that just not being a board member, it's not even part of it. It's not even anything we care about. It's nothing of great importance. It's just a technicality to us, you know.
Cool. And Danielle, you know, fostering for multiple organizations over the years, aside from the care of the animal, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced, or maybe some conflict that arose?
I think Franny maybe touched on it a little bit when we first opened, but I think in retrospect, some of the challenges have been, I didn't feel like as a foster that our voice was heard. If it was, you know, I didn't necessarily have an issue so much with rescues having like the ultimate decision of where our foster goes. But I think at some point and I haven't even fostered really for that many rescues. I did give it a good go with one of them, which was probably like the first 5 of those 9 years. But I think the issue is that as that rescue continued to grow, and when I mean grow, I mean not only with the areas that they were rescuing from, but the volume of animals that they were rescuing, our voice became completely unimportant, or at least that's how we were made to feel. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I would reach out to the founder, the president, and say, hey, like, this is how I'm feeling. Like, I feel like this dog really needs to be in a home with another dog, or I can see tendencies. Like, I think that a foster, and it may be my career because I work with children in foster care and foster parents, and I've been doing that for 20 years, that I know how valuable their feedback is because they're living with them day in and day out. And so it's very important for me if you say, hey, I don't think, little Pete should be in a home with another male, because I'm seeing some tendencies where it may continue to get worse. And I may, we may be able to solve, a problem before it starts. And I just felt like no matter what I said and however long these dogs were with us, it was just like, but we have a great home. We have a great family. The app looks great. And like we were saying before, I think that no matter how great a family looks on paper, if they're not a good match for that particular pet, and that foster is telling you, I don't think this is a good match, but you're afraid of not getting another app, so you may push it anyway. That's a concern for me, because I feel like we put our heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into these animals. And if the dog is not going to a home that we think is a good match, it's upsetting, because I feel like we're sending this dog into like a situation that isn't going to work out for them.
I've seen dogs die from that, bad placements and not listening to the information that they've given, and bad placements. And then 6 or 7 months down the road, the dog comes back to the shelter, like, I hate to use the word damage, but they've been through something, and then boom, that's it, they're gone. So that's why it's so important to us to really get as good of a match as we can, because we don't want to add to what these dogs and cats and, whoever they are have been through. We want to take that away. We want to be, the last stop.
I agree.
That's it.
And I think that, like I said earlier, my first experience fostering, I think it was the responsibility of that rescue to say, hey, we'll find another match for you, but let's pick the right one for your inexperience. The fact that, my son, at the time was a small child, or actually, so he was about 9 at the time, 9 or 10 at the time. And, in retrospect, I was like, wow, it was a really dangerous situation, and we were just trying to help. But I think it was the responsibility of that rescue to say, listen, this is, hey, the dog you want is not a good choice for you. We're going to pick a good match for you, so that A, everybody's safe, the dog is safe, your family is safe, but B, you have a good experience and want to keep doing it. I can see how if anybody else were in our situation, they would have shut their doors and said, I gave it a shot, I'm not doing it anymore. And then you will have lost out on a really great home that's, 9 years later, we're still doing it because we were willing to give it another shot. But I can see how many people would have been really scared off by having a bad experience, especially as their first experience or very early on in their fostering experience. So.
Okay. Excellent. Cool. So before we wrap things up, and either of you can just throw a quick spiel out there, any advice or recommendations to people who are getting into rescue for the first time, whether they're considering starting their own rescue or they want to foster? Feel free, jump in, whoever wants to start.
I would say absolutely do so by starting to foster for someone. Be a volunteer before you're, the head of a rescue or you start a rescue. Get to know the ins and outs. Get to know other people who are doing rescue, what's going on out there, make some friends, make some contacts, network. You cannot do this alone. And another important thing is, if you're going to foster, understand that you do have to, while it's a wonderful thing that you want to do, I can foster this dog from now until Friday and it's Wednesday. Sometimes it's a big help, but typically you need to be committed. You need to say, we get a lot of, well, I can do this for the 2 weeks that my daughter is home from college. While that's a wonderful thing and that you want to try and that we might be able to use you, please don't get upset if the rescue can't use you, because typically, both Stanley and it just happens to be that both Stanley and Pete, who are both here, we're only supposed to be here for a couple of days, because I was supposed to take Stanley. But then, of course, when they fell in love with Stanley and there was another dog in danger that I had to take, and I still have, Stanley ended up being, well, you know what? We love him so much, we'll keep him. Pete was literally a dog that was like, we had to take that day. And he was supposed to go home, but he ended up getting really sick. So just go along with the rescue and understand these surprises are coming along to them just as much as they're coming at you. And communicate with each other. Trust is a huge thing. Don't take someone as a foster home you don't trust, because it won't work. Don't foster for a rescue you don't know or you don't trust, or, you know, maybe if you don't know them, but you've seen good work that they do. But know who you're fostering for, know who your fosters are. That's what I think is the most important thing, because it's, you know, you really do have to work closely together. There's an animal in between you. There's going to be a lot of emotions towards that animal. Just know what you're getting into, be ready for it, be understanding of each other. And I think it's the greatest thing in the world. Nothing better.
And, you know, you bring up a good point, because, you know, fostering technically is temporary. And I think some people who are new to it, they were like, oh yeah, I'll foster, it's temporary, because they think every dog gets adopted in 3 weeks.
Some never get adopted.
And, you know, for anyone watching this that's considering fostering, before we move on to Danielle's piece of advice for you, I just want to offer fostering and I don't know how it is for you, Franny, but like fostering, in my point of view, is a commitment. It's just as much a commitment as adopting. You know,
exactly.
And like Franny said, you know, it might be a situational thing where you could help out for a couple of weeks, and that's great. But if you're watching this video and you're going to reach out to rescues and start developing relationships and foster for them, understand it's a commitment. You know, it might take a few months for that dog to get adopted, or longer.
Yes, I have never made a post asking for fosters without using the word committed. Never exactly. Once, because I want people to know, I want to be honest with people. You are doing the greatest thing in the world you could do for this dog, even better than adoption, honestly, because the adopters get the dog and they have them forever. You're doing this knowing that it's going to be a heartbreak when they leave, but it's a joy as much as it is a heartbreak. But you're also preparing them for their home. You are the most important person in the journey on that dog's, you know, their road to their forever home. So you will be appreciated. It is worth all the hard work, but definitely be in it all the way. You have to, committed is the number one word.
Danielle, any last bit of advice for someone who's interested in fostering, or who may already be a foster, that you could offer some?
I would say the most important things are know your limitations and have realistic expectations. A lot of times people say, "Oh, puppies, they're so cute. I'll foster the whole litter." And you know, they don't realize the work that comes with even one puppy. I mean, you're semi-responsible for trying to, you know, depending on the age, helping get that puppy house trained. So if you have like zero ability, or you know, you're not in a position where you can work on that consistently, or at least as a family unit, because that's our situation, working on that, then I would suggest to people, maybe puppies shouldn't, you know, if you work all day and you're not going to be home at all, you know, that puppy might be walking around in pee-pee and poo-poo. And, you know, it may not be something you should consider. If you're, you know, a more active family, then maybe you want to take, you know, like a young adult dog where, you know, you can really work on that exercise and really kind of work on some anxiety or whatever. But again, just being very realistic in terms of expectations. If you're a busy family and you're a working family like we are, I mean, we kind of have the best of both worlds here, where it is a complete team effort. So we do have somebody here to take care of them during the day, but you know, my husband and I do work during the day. So puppies right now, unless it were like an emergent, hey, someone's going on vacation, can you provide respite to this foster parent until they come back? Yeah, sure, no problem. But long term, we're not going to be able to do that anymore. You know, which is why seniors rock. And we stick to the oldies but goodies, because again, even though sometimes it takes longer for the older ones to get adopted, they're super chill, like they're non-destructive. For the most part, they're house trained. Like, you know, you're not dealing with a lot of issues. So again, when I say it is a commitment, don't have expectations of how quickly they're going to get adopted just because you think they're super cute and they're a puppy. They may not get adopted in 2 weeks or a month. It just may be the odds that no one's applying. And what you thought would be a super short-term foster winds up being long-term. And are you ready for that?
Yeah. And we, as a rescue, we have to be ready for it too. So it's not something
Yeah.
we're doing to you.
Yeah.
It's something that's happening to everyone and to that dog.
Yeah, I think people need
Yeah.
to understand that rescues are essentially foster-based. So if it doesn't work for whatever reason, or maybe we didn't properly prepare for this foster, you know, we have to say to that rescue, you know, hey, like, you got to take them back, knowing that they probably don't have anywhere else for that, you know, for that pet to go to. So again, knowing your own limitations of your household, of your lifestyle, of your tolerance, and having realistic expectations about like what that, you know, adjustment period is going to look like. And right off the bat, if they're like growling and snarling or barking a lot, doesn't necessarily mean that this is what you're going to be dealing with every day for the next 6 months or a year until they get adopted. Like, we have to understand that there is that adjustment period, that decompression period, and you have to be committed to seeing that through. And if you're not, then maybe fostering isn't for you, because I can totally respect the people who say, I wish I could, but I can't because, and I say, hey, great. At least you understand why you can't do it. But if you feel like you live that kind of life or have that kind of household set up where you can do it, it is so super rewarding. Like, yes. Coming home to all these faces, bum rushing me at the door, jumping up like little kangaroos, or, you know, barking because they smell me. It's honestly, they're your best friend in the worst times. Yeah. And having your own dogs is great, but they just sort of add to it. And yes, very important, like you touched on, obviously they can be there. We actually did a transport, and I don't want to get on a tangent, but we did a transport for another local rescue last weekend. The dog was there for 4 days, but she was the sweetest little dog. And this woman hysterically cried when we went to go pick her up and transport her to her long-term foster. And I felt for her, because I was like, it's only been 4 days, but I get it. You had a connection with that dog. So I tell people all the time, yes, because you hear all the time, right? Like, I wish I could do it, but I could never let them go. I would want to keep them all. I mean, you hear it day in and day out. But honestly, I think while every dog is different and you do wind up loving them all despite how long they're there, you realize that you'll get over it. Yeah. And sometimes you have to just go through that short-term heartbreak, knowing that when they leave, you'll be able to help another one. And it is worth it. It is worth that very short-term heartbreak. And I usually wind up having a really great relationship with the adopters who feel obligated, or because they want to. They're so thankful of how like great they feel we were as foster parents, that they constantly send text messages and pictures and videos. Happy Mother's Day, happy Father's Day, years and years later. And you know, when you get those updates, you did the right thing. And for me, that's all I need to move them on so we can take more. Yeah.
And there's nothing in the world better than a transformation. One of the last fosters I had who was for the rescue, she was a Yorkie. You think a Yorkie, right? Usually I take little dogs and just throw them into my pack. Everybody's like, woo, like they love everybody. But she did not want anything to do with my dogs. She was nippy with everybody except for me. And I thought, this dog is going to stay forever because nobody's going to want her. No one's going to love her like I do. She's going to bite people. She did go to a home that I didn't feel 100%, for a trial. It was a friend of a friend. She had her for one night. She texted me, you have to come and get this dog. Literally, she said, she is the worst. She said that. So she came back to me. I was very protective of placing her after that. But after just like a few weeks in my house with my dogs, she went to her forever home. They adore her. I get pictures of her all the time, Christmas cards. They came to Christmas pictures. But knowing that dog went from, when she came to my house, I was like, whoa, this dog is going to be tough, to being so great that when she left my house, I was bawling, and now she's the best family ever. Here's Pete.
This is Pete. He doesn't see you because he's blind.
I'm sending him virtual stitches.
And you could also, I could tell you this real quick. Pete was hospitalized like a day or two after Danielle and John got him. And I have the most beautiful pictures of them bawling at his oxygen tank.
We had him for 2 days, and we went to go see him in the hospital and just lost it.
Yeah,
He's
and he might be getting adopted this weekend. So how great is that? And he's blind, and he's older than dirt, and he's beautiful and perfect, and he has breathing issues, but there's some wonderful person who sees what we see in him. And what is better than that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys coming on and offering your advice. And, you know, for anyone considering getting into rescue, I hope this offers some value to you. And, you know, in a nutshell, it's all about relationships, right? It's all about trust, relationships, and collaboration, because it really is a team effort. And, you know, the best part about keeping the focus on the animals is we might have disagreements. We might not see eye to eye on everything, but you know, if you look at these two ladies here, their focus is the same. It's all about the animals.
100%.
Absolutely.
That's what I want everyone out there to understand. And if you're thinking about fostering, stop thinking and
do it. Just do it.
You gotta remember, you take an animal into your home, especially if it's rescues. And I know you guys pull from shelter sometimes, or wherever you get them from.
Lots of times.
You know, a foster, you're not just fostering that dog, you're actually saving the life of the dog that's going to take its place. You know,
absolutely.
So you're literally saving 2 lives by one act.
Right.
You know, so but again, ladies, thank you so much. And anyone on my channel for the first time, take a peek around, and if you like what you see and you want to stay up to date on dog training, dog care, dog health, dog nutrition, dog rescue, dog whatever, consider subscribing to my channel. Click that bell so you get notified when I upload new content, and I'll see you guys soon.